In the past few months, I've been working on a side project called SportsTable.io. As a big sports fan myself, I don't really have the time to watch games fully, so I usually watch the highlights. But I realized there's this annoying problem with highlights. I have to go to different YouTube channels or different sources to find the highlight that I'm looking for. I don't want to deal with any other clutter or any other videos that channel is showing. I just want the highlights. That's why I created SportsTable.io. It is sports highlights in one place. Initially, when I had the idea, I wanted to create an MVP using React and AWS services. However, 3 months into the project, I realized how difficult that was becoming. This year, I've been learning about a lot of different web development frameworks as well as backend as a service or database as a service platforms and trying to integrate it into this project. Today, I wanted to share with you where I am right now with a web application and what I'm working on right now. So here's my project open in VS Code and running on the local host. This is what the landing page looks like. The tech stack that I'm using is a T3 stack, which is a combination of Next.js, specifically using the app directory, as well as Next.auth, Tailwind CSS, and lastly, TRPC. I am also using TypeScript for this project. Now, the cool thing with Next.auth, it's really easy to set up authentication. Right now, I'm only using the Google provider. So if I click on this, it takes me to log into my Google account, and then that data is stored in my database. Now, I'm still working out some bugs. This is just an initial concept. As you can see, I got some highlights that were loaded in here. The only league that I'm currently querying is the Premier League. I have a separate script that is running an API that is scraping the data off the internet and posting it into my database. And then on my client and server end, I am calling that database with any updates that were made. But for testing purposes, I only have a couple rows. Now, as you can see, there are some highlights that were liked, and that allows you to favorite it. If I go to the favorites tab right here, those would show up here. I am able to unlike it, and then it will remove it from my favorites. So then if I go back here, it gets updated. If I want to watch a highlight, all I need to do is click on the image, and then it redirects me to the YouTube channel and the specific YouTube highlight. If I want to see the score of the game, I just click see score and it will display the score right here. I eventually want to have different sports, different highlights here in this area and be able to filter it by the specific sport team that you are looking for. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about my backend. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I was using React and AWS, and that was taking a long time, and there was a lot of issues that was happening there, which I did eventually figure it out, but I didn't feel like it was maintainable that way. So that's why I migrated to more backend as a service or database as a service platforms. I am currently using Railway. The good thing about Railway is that you don't even need an account to spin up a database. Once you have your database connected, I am also using Prisma to then send my schema here, and this is how I got all the tables set up. The cons are it's a little bit difficult if I want to manipulate the data for testing purposes manually. It's a little bit difficult. On another project, I am using Supabase, and I really like the ecosystem there and the UI and the whole experience. So I am trying to currently migrate to that platform from Railway. I wanted to show you a couple features that Supabase offers. This past week, they had a couple launches of some new features. You can read it in the documentation. Specifically, I am talking about their cascade deletes, which I feel like if you've worked with databases before, and specifically Postgres databases, since you're using primary and foreign keys, sometimes if you want to delete a row, it might be attached to another table. So this feature right here is one of the reasons why I wanted to switch to Supabase, because it's easy to do this from the UI. But I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I created a project already in Supabase called SportsTable. It's not integrated into my project yet, but that's what I'm in the progress of doing. So I have set up 3 tables that are similar to the tables that I have in Railway. I have a users table, which is all the data from my users. I have a games table, which is all my highlight data that I am storing here. And I have another table called user favorites that whenever a user likes a specific game, this is where that data is stored. Now, going back to the cascade delete, the reason why this is useful is if I want to delete a specific row from games, for instance, I no longer want a specific highlight in my database. However, if a user here has liked that game already, then it will not let me delete that game from that table. So for instance, I have a game ID here with the beginning letters and numbers of F31B, right? If I go to the games table and if I look for that ID, which is right here, and I try deleting it, right, it will not let me because there is a foreign key constraint in the other table. Now, if I go back to this table, the new update that Supabase did to their studio is that I'm able to override that by editing the table, selecting the specific ID. So for instance, I want to change the game ID. I want it to have a specific relation. If I go here, I select the schema as public. These already set. I am referencing the games table, and the specific column that I'm referencing is the ID. Whenever like right here, action if reference row is removed. So I'm referencing this row from another table. Right now there is no action. However, I want it to cascade. If I delete a row from the games table, it will also delete whatever ID exists in the user favorites table. So now if I save it and I save it here and I go back to games, and now if I try deleting that one row that maybe I don't want, I press confirm. Now it doesn't give me that error. If I go back here, this row also gets removed. Now this is good, I believe, for testing purposes if you want to try things out. In real production, you might not want to delete things from your users without letting them know, but this is just showing you how to do that. So I thought that was a really cool thing that I learned this week. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to migrate to Supabase. If I want to insert another row back in here, it's really cool. If I want to add a specific user, let's say Sophia, and I want there to be a game that she liked, let's select this game right here, and I press save, I have a row that was added in here. There's a lot of different features that you can implement, which I still need to look more into and read the documentation. And that's another great thing about Supabase, is that their documentation is really good and they explain things clearly, and their API is really easy to use. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to their support or reach out to their Discord or GitHub discussions. They are pretty responsive. And that's it for this video. I have left the source code for sportstable.io in the description below if you want to check it out. And everything else that I talked about in this video will be in the description below. Thank you for watching, and until next time.